So we're going to be speaking about something that I think is very relevant in the football industry today, which is entertainment and sportainment and fan experience and everything related to the stadium experience. Tim, at the end of the day, I mean, you've had a very remarkable career in the industry, and you've been at the forefront of many innovations, whether it was through the MLS or your work with Oakview Group, no? Working with some of the biggest names in not only football, but probably in sports. But before going into that, I guess I'm curious, what was the moment or the project that, triggered everything, that kind of like helped you build that philosophy toward building the best venues in the world?
So first, I'm always very nervous when somebody says you've had a remarkable career, because I'm afraid you're telling me it's over.
So far, I forgot to mention.
So far, thank you. Very much appreciate that. I've been doing this for about 45 years, and one of the things I've enjoyed most of all, especially at the 20 years when we were building AEG, and then the last 8 or 9 years with OVG, pretty much most every project I've ever done, most everyone thought we were crazy. Mm-hmm. And so the 3 or 4 I probably most enjoyed, one was Major League Soccer. And so at one point, ironically, as great as the success of the league is today, we had to own 6 of the 10 teams at AEG because it was going into bankruptcy. And if you look at Major League Soccer today, in 2002, they drew 2.2 million people. This past year, they drew 11.5 million people. And probably the thing I'm most proud about is we built Home Depot Center, brand new stadium, 30,000 seats. And I remember when we were building it, one of the banks came and toured and said, well, what happens if the league goes bankrupt? And I told them, well, we'll just do international games and we'll figure that out. But it's still Los Angeles. It's still football. People will come. Ironically, now there's 23 new stadiums in Major League Soccer. Yep. And so remarkable what's occurred at that league. And I spent probably 10 years with Commissioner Garber being the chairman of the board and enjoyed the trials and the tribulations because, again, everybody thought we were nuts. The O2 in London, remarkable because we literally were given that piece of property for free because the government thought we were the craziest people on the face of the earth to think we were going to build an arena inside a Millennium Dome. And my architects, including Populous, who we love dearly, they came in and they said, this is going to be great. We're going to build this wonderful arena. It's going to be the most important arena in the world. 2 little problems. We can't go up because we can't touch the roof. It's historic. Oh, yeah, and by the way, we can't go down because it's the Thames and it's polluted. And so besides that, it's going to be a fantastic arena. And they're like, well, how do you think we're going to build it if we can't go up or down? We figured it out. I think what we've done with OVG has been even more revolutionary at thinking outside the box. Climate Pledge Arena, the first carbon neutral arena ever built, first facility for sports and live entertainment ever to be carbon neutral. Highly important. Really something we're very proud of, and hopefully something that the industry follows. If you look at what we just did with City Football Group and building Co-op Live, we've been for many years preaching that the future of football, the future of live entertainment, and the future of facilities, especially internationally, Europe, Middle East, Africa, UK, is going to be these entertainment districts, and the entertainment districts are going to be football stadiums next to arenas. If you look at the success that both City Football Group and OVG have had with that particular arena, it's now the 2nd busiest international arena in the world in its first year. And what you begin to see is this vision with Etihad Stadium, Co-op Live, and a 20-plus acre campus that will be developed with hotels and restaurants and bars and nightlife. That's the future of our industry. We were bold. City Football Group was bold. Populous was bold. It's probably the most acoustically perfect arena that I've ever seen. So every project that we've done, whether it was at AEG or now with OVG, we've pretty much had everyone ridicule us thinking we were out of our minds. But as we look back at Major League Soccer or O2 or LA Live, or now Climate Pledge Arena, or Moody Center on the campus of University of Texas, or what we now just did with Co-op Live, they've all ended up fairly well. So hopefully we have a few more in us.
But that's the first lesson for you. You know, you have to be a little bit crazy to create these new experience, and I mean it in a good way. You know, you have to have a lot of imagination, and I think it's relevant to what we're going to discuss today, because here in Saudi, they're imagining a new industry and a new way of entertainment around football, if you would know. And you were just mentioning now about the stadiums. They're no longer just venues. It's really about the entire experience, you know, where you're able to, and it's about the concessions, the sponsorship, the content, everything that you can do around the stadium, no? But I guess let's go into a little bit more detail around that, which is how can all these, like, call it we will, facilities evolve, whether it's their skills, their model, to actually get the most revenue out of improving the overall fan experience? So
I'm fascinated to be here at your conference today because of Riyadh and Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian Pro League and the vision. And we actually are a huge fan of the Crown Prince and his vision for 2030 and what he's trying to accomplish in a very short period of time. I think it's probably the most, if you look at that entrepreneurial spirit and that vision, it's the most daring vision I've ever seen within any country in my lifetime. And if you sit here and you see the cranes and you see what they're trying to accomplish in such a short period of time, if you sit here and look at the decision that's coming in 7 days on the World Cup and the impact that will have on Saudi Arabia, and if you sit here and look at the World Expo and the World Expo now coming to Saudi Arabia, go look at Riyadh, an $80 billion project that is going to transform entertainment districts as we know it. And this is just one country, and this is occurring everywhere around the world now.
Yeah.
I think these entertainment districts, these stadiums and these arenas are what give people the opportunity to live life, enjoy life, forget about the day-to-day, and it become vitally important. It's why, if you look at the music industry, we've sold more tickets in the music industry this past year than ever before. If you look at the sports industry, we've sold more tickets to sporting events around the world than ever before. And if you look at entertainment districts, we're in probably just here in Saudi Arabia, there's 12 new stadiums that are going to be built. My favorite story is Tottenham. I think Daniel Levy was brilliant on what he did with that stadium.
Yeah.
He's also, God bless him, he's difficult, hasn't even put a naming rights deal on that stadium yet because he's waiting for the right deal. He is stubborn at times on his entrepreneurial spirit. And when he built it, he was very focused on the Spurs and the NFL. And what we reminded him of is, do not forget about music. Music is going to be a huge component of the revenue streams you're going to generate in your football stadium. He did 0 concerts when he opened up, 0. Our company now helps book those concerts. Gary, I think, is somewhere in the audience. He has a dozen stadiums that he actually is now partnering with the football club on creating musical content. We'll do 23 concerts at Tottenham Stadium this next year.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the economic benefit that they generate and the risk Daniel took, the 850 million pounds he spent on that stadium, and look at now what music could do to create a diversified revenue stream above and beyond what the football team generates, hugely important because these things get more expensive. So for Saudi Arabia, about this the right way, which is let's create a pro league so that if and when we win the World Cup and if and when we host the World Cup, there is a reoccurring football vision that will happen after the World Cup that will keep these stadiums busy. But I think they're also very focused on music, as every football club should be now going forward, because Tottenham is a great example of how important music, content, revenue streams can be at diversifying your revenue stream and helping you with either the renovation or the new build.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there, no? How, at the end of the day, the fan experience is something that you have to enjoy throughout the entire year. You know, these facilities, you cannot just enjoy them for a certain amount of time, like just, every 2 weeks, no? And for football clubs, at the end of the day, it's also a good way to actually engage new fans through different content and reach new people, no? Which is very relevant. And I guess on that front, the US sports industry has been pioneer. Then you had Tottenham, as you said, and then now, like top clubs are, it's kind of like becoming standard that they have to use these facilities, no? But I guess I'm wondering, let's go back to your early days at the MLS, right? When you were mentioning at the beginning. I guess I'm wondering, what specific lessons, because it does seem to me that the MLS is going through a similar, or went through a similar period to the one that the Saudi Pro League and Saudi Arabian football is going through now. So what lessons can your time there be applicable to what Saudi is experiencing today?
Don't own 6 of 10 clubs and get David Beckham. That's probably the two best lessons.
That's the easiest one.
I think what they're going through is very similar to what Major League Soccer went through with their growing pains. So, one, we had this constant debate. You know, in the United States, the problem that Major League Soccer had is if you look at the NFL, the best football players, American football, in the world play in the NFL. The best baseball players from all over the world play in Major League Baseball. Hockey, best players in the world in the NHL, and the best basketball players in the NBA. Was not true for Major League Soccer. And many had an opinion that we weren't even a top 10 league as to the quality of players. I think we were a little bit better than that, but we understood we weren't La Liga or Serie A or the Premier League. We had to figure out a way to capture the attention of an audience in a country that was spoiled by having the 4 best athletes in 4 sports playing in that league. And we didn't have that in Major League Soccer. We couldn't afford that in Major League Soccer. If we would have jumped into that economic model and tried to compete with the rest of the world, we would have been bankrupt. Yeah. We came near bankruptcy without that rate card, but we knew we couldn't afford that rate card. But the biggest debate during my time as the chairman was David Beckham. And many of the clubs didn't want to do it because haves and have-nots. Ironically, today, as you look at La Liga, Serie A, Premier League, Super League here in Saudi Arabia, it's the same debate today, which is the haves and the have-nots. But as it relates to Major League Soccer, if it wasn't for David Beckham, they would not be at 22.5 million people and growing, or 11.5 million people this year, eventually 22 million people. That's the goal and the ambition. 23 new stadiums. If you look at those 23 new stadiums, half of them made that decision after they saw the impact that David created with attendance, with TV viewership, with sponsorship, and with revenue. And so the other important thing was, if you look at the LA Galaxy, and that was the dominant team in Major League Soccer from 2012 through 2016. It was David, but it was also Robbie Keane. So Robbie Keane, he was one of the top 10 scorers in the Premier League at the time. And he was sitting on the bench in Tottenham. We ended up making a deal with Daniel Levy, and we bought his rights. He came over and joined that team. That team had Landon Donovan, still arguably one of the 2 or 3 best American players ever. I was going to say. And then we added some other talent around those guys. But if you looked at the amount of money we were spending, we were by far the highest payroll in Major League Soccer. But it worked. And what happened is, not only did it create a break-even or better proposition for the Galaxy, but I always tell people it got rid of the vision of fear. And so many times when you're a businessman or an entrepreneurial spirit, or you're running a club, you're looking at building a stadium, or you're looking at building an arena, fear overcomes decision-making. And fear is the easiest thing in the world to ultimately let win. Fear is the easiest decision, which is no. That's the easy way out. You have to overcome that objective in order to get to a point where you say, I know that many people think I should not be spending this money, are dreaming and daring to dream this big, but we're going to do it, and I will not let fear dictate decision. And so we were very fortunate. We didn't let fear guide us. We dreamed big. We got arguably the most famous soccer player at the time to come. But more importantly, we spurred on 23 new stadiums. And that's the difference. And that's, I think, what will happen when you see 12 new stadiums in Saudi Arabia that are going to get built, assuming that they win the World Cup bid next week. I think that's an amazing vision. That is a vision done above and beyond fear, because many people would be afraid to make that decision. That's the future of these facilities. It's the future of football. It's the future of live entertainment. Co-op Live is the single best new arena internationally. Amazingly, O2 Co-op Live, those two arenas are world class. But if you look at the rest of the world and you look at comparable arenas, it's shocking that there aren't more new arenas being built around the world. I think you're going to see not just an explosion of either renovation or new build on football, you're going to see a whole new opportunity to build or renovate new stadiums and arenas at the major markets around the world, because we're at the height of live entertainment. People want to go out and be entertained. Now we have to be bold, we have to be daring as an industry, and we can't let fear dictate decisions.
I agree completely, because today's fan is probably less passionate and more fragmented, meaning they have so many entertainment options, whether it's Netflix, whether it's social media, call it what you will. You really have to be very good at justifying them getting up from their couch and going to the live stadium, right? So it's that live experience that you need to really, and the live experience, and it's not only what's happening on the pitch, it's what's happening across when that person makes the decision to actually go play, right? Or actually watch the game, right? So I get that from an entertainment perspective and from a business perspective, and imagining the future, one of the other key elements that everybody's talking about when building new stadiums or renovating is sustainability. And you alluded to the climate, to the Climate Pledge Arena. How do you think, like all these principles, because that's a remarkable stadium, it's world class. Now that Saudi's also focusing on building these new stadiums, how can what you have applied there be applied here?
So two things. One, when you talk about the joy of the live experience, so we're fortunate that we're working with our friends at Athara in Abu Dhabi to bring Coldplay to the old football stadium in Abu Dhabi in January. 4 nights of Coldplay, completely sold out. If you've never seen a Coldplay concert, you want to go see that concert, because it will be one of those moments in life you look back and say, that's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. That is the great news about music and sports, is we have those moments where in people's lives, all of us get a chance to make a difference, and all of us are providing to them an experience they'll remember for the rest of their life. It's remarkable. I get to go see Sir Paul McCartney at Co-op Live here in 2 weeks. He gets to go back home. He hasn't played in Manchester in 20 plus years, and he's going to have a chance to play in the best acoustical venue in the world next to his hometown with all of his family and his friends there. Those are remarkable moments, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. We get to see Bruce Springsteen at Co-op Live. So those moments, sports and music, highly valuable. I think on sustainability, the second point of what you raised, we spent $1.15 billion building Climate Pledge Arena. And again, everyone thought we were nuts. We originally budgeted $850 million. But when we had a moment halfway through construction where we suddenly saw a vision and a path towards sustainability, we knew we were going to have to jump the $850 million budget by somewhere between 50 and 100 million. We had to literally stop construction and pull out all the gas lines and tell them, I'm pulling gas out of this arena and we're going to do everything electrical. We had to build solar farms on all of our parking garages, and that only gave us 20% of our energy. 80% of our energy came from an agreement we made with Amazon, where we get our solar power for the remainder of our electricity from that solar farm. 100% of our energy, our electricity, comes from solar energy. We take the rainwater in not just our building and the campus at Seattle Center. Our season ticket holders capture rainwater during the year, and then at the beginning of the Kraken season, they bring their rainwater in. We use that recyclable water to make the ice at Climate Pledge Arena. And so we had to spend $100 million to be sustainable. But what we told everyone at the time, what Jeff Bezos and Amazon believed in, and Andy Jassy, who's the new CEO, they were passionate about sustainability. They actually led us, and they actually directed us on how to become carbon neutral. Everybody in this industry, everybody in this room, and to the credit of the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, they are highly focused. We must become sustainable, because if we get that moment to check that box with Paul McCartney or Coldplay or football or Premier League games or Champion League games. And we can inspire people. Can we not be the catalyst as an industry to inspire people to understand sustainability is the cause of our lifetime? And so that's what Climate Pledge did.
Going back to your Coldplay thing, just a side note here. I remember once having...
After I gave you that inspirational talk on sustainability, you want to go back to Coldplay?
You know what? You kind of like it went back to my little memories with, I had a conversation with my wife. I was studying in the US and she was in Madrid. And she told me just the same thing. I went to a Coldplay concert. It was the best thing. I was like, okay, thank you so much. I just had that in the back of my mind. I had to get it out. I'm
pretty sure you could go home and tell your wife the sustainability story and she's not going to say that's a better conversation than Coldplay.
No, I don't know if she's even watching, But anyway, and about your sustainability point, I'm also running the podcast for World Football Summit, which, by the way, guys, I encourage you to listen to. And I had a conversation with the director of impact at Liverpool FC. And he had a nice sentence, which he said something like, football clubs, and you could apply it to sports, have probably the responsibility, but also the opportunity to drive more sustainable behavior in society. And I think that's a good point there, And I think what they're doing here in Saudi with that, using the passion around football, capacity to influence, to also leverage on sustainability is important. And speaking about that Saudi vision, I guess, what do you see the opportunity to create world-class venues here? What are your feelings? Do you think they're going to get there?
Well, what part of the industry are you asking about getting there specifically?
Well, to become, we're talking about great venues in the US, great venues around Europe. Do you think that we're going to be able to see world-class venues here in Saudi with everything that they're doing? I mean, with all that vision, will they be able to materialize on that vision?
Yes. So I think, in our country, everything is political, which is unfortunate because there's no joy in politics in our country right now, no matter which side you're on. What I know is what the inspiration and the leadership is in Saudi Arabia for 2030. Not just World Cup, not just new stadiums. Go look at Riyadh. It's the most fascinating development I've ever seen in my life, and I had the good fortune of being involved in a lot of really good development projects. I'm in awe when I toured Riyadh at the vision and the commitment that it took from the kingdom and the royal family to create a place like that will inspire tens of millions of people a year. Go look at what's happened in Qatar with the airport and the new stadiums there. Go look at, there is, we had a meeting yesterday with our friends from PIF and Surge. So I'm always interested when I fly through Heathrow trying to understand how the hell did an island in the middle of nowhere with the worst weather ever become the center transportation hub for the world, and we all had to fly through Heathrow. And that's no disrespect to Heathrow. But it's like, wait a minute, the weather's not very good. It's way the hell up north. It's an island, and it's hard to get to, and it's hard to get out of. If you look at Qatar and that airport there, if you look at Riyadh and the airport they're building here, they're going to be the center of the universe because the future of the population and the growth of our world is going to be Africa, it's going to be Asia, and it's going to be the Middle East.
Yeah.
And if you look at what they're inspiring to create here, now, by 2030, it's remarkable to make all of that vision come to life by then. If people don't understand what's going on in the Middle East, if people don't come visit Riyadh and see what's happening in this country, they really underestimate the vision, the commitment, and the passion for changing not just society here in Saudi Arabia, but creating one of the great points of destination that everybody in the world will come to. And so we're a huge fan of what they're doing here with the facilities. We're a huge fan of the World Cup and the 12 stadiums that will emanate and be developed because of the World Cup. And to the credit of the people in the Saudi Pro League, they're thinking about what will come the day after the World Cup. Sure. And that's hugely important because you don't want those stadiums to sit empty. They're talking about 4 nights of Coldplay in Abu Dhabi, and can you do 4 nights of Coldplay in Riyadh? Of course, every artist in the world is going to want to play in Riyadh now because Riyadh's going to be the center of the universe, and that's critical. Now, that takes a vision. It takes guts, but it also takes companies like ours that want to come along and say, I completely believe in that. We're in. That is our new climate pledge. That is our new O2. That is our new Home Depot Center. It is a vision that inspires us and one that we want to be involved in because I think it's going to change our industry forever. And we want to be a part of Saudi Arabia and Riyadh long term.
And to that point, you're making, you're making us think about 2030 and the Vision 2030. If we go to 2030, what does the ideal experience at a venue look like to you?
So we debated this at Co-op Live. So if you go to Co-op Live, we have no advertising in the bowl, no advertising panels in the bowl. We have no scoreboard in the bowl. We have no scoreboard in the building. The entire bowl is blank because we want it to be about the artist. Just like if you go into a great football stadium, the first thing you really look at is the pitch and how beautiful that pitch is. And so we wanted Co-op Live to ultimately be the ultimate experience. We spent $20 million on an acoustical system, so there's no reverb or bounce back anywhere in the world. I think Liam Gallagher called it the Death Star. And I'm pretty sure that was a compliment. And so we wanted the artists and the fans to connect in a way they've never connected before, and that's happening. It's probably the best acoustical arena ever built. But we also built 8 private clubs. And so our premium business at that building is going to be $20 to $25 million a year. No anchor tenant, no sports team, no predictability of what's coming the next year. It's based on 120 nights of music and sports and UFC and boxing. And so the premium business allowed us to go spend 400 million pounds to go build that arena and do it believing at the end of the day, not only do we not have an anchor tenant, I don't have any advertising in the bowl, none. And yet we figured out a way to create a different kind of relationship, a different kind of experience for our sponsors and who they're trying to talk to, and for the premium customers with the clubs we built. The most gorgeous clubs we've ever built we have 600 facilities in our company, 8 of which we've built. Our best clubs are not in New York or Los Angeles or Seattle or Austin. They're actually in Manchester, and that's where we're doing our best business. Premium is going to be a huge aspect for all of us because it's how we figure out how to pay for these things going forward. These things are expensive. And so we're very driven by premium and hospitality, but very driven to make sure that the premium hospitality experience doesn't take away from the artist or the team.
Okay, and you're focused on that, and I guess I'm wondering now, what legacy do you want to leave through either OVG in general, or even here in Saudi? Because you guys have a lot of, or Saudi or the region, wherever you want to take this.
Well, I kind of like the idea that we were out front on Major League Soccer and believed in a vision most people didn't. I'm glad how many people told me we were wrong on Major League Soccer or David Beckham. I kind of like the fact we built an entertainment district in the middle of downtown LA when no one wanted to build anything in downtown LA. I like thinking outside the box. I love having the first carbon neutral arena because I believe it's important for our industry. To me, that's what Saudi Arabia is and the vision going forward. They're onto something here. And I think it's going to be revolutionary. And I think it's going to change our world, not just in the industry of football and sports and music, but the way people travel and where they travel to, and then the experience they have when they go there. I want to be a part of that. And so when I go to Diriyah Gate, it's the greatest vision I've ever seen for an entertainment district anywhere in the world. I want to be a part of that. And so that's what we want out of our company. We started with 4 people, and today we have 65,000 people. Wow. We want to be daring and bold. We want to be a positive disruption. We want to go find ideas, opportunities, vision that no one else is thinking of or everyone else criticizes. And we want to be out front, and we want to try that. It's not about the money or the value or how much EBITDA we're making. We're doing quite well, but that's not the priority. The priority is, can we find the next inspiration for that experience that will change people's lives forever? Coldplay changed your wife's life.
Yeah, and mine.
And yours too. So we'll make sure we invite you when we're doing Coldplay at Abu Dhabi.
I'm not missing a Coldplay concert anytime soon. So anyway, and just one last thing. One of the things that we've been discussing overall in the program here at World Football Summit is about the importance of sharing knowledge, developing local talent, bringing in people from outside. So I guess one final question for me is, because you guys have an interesting initiative, which I think is worth sharing for those that are not aware, which I think it's called the Institution of Inspiration. What is that? What can you share? Why is it important that people here know about it?
So one of the things we're trying to do as we grow is, how do we go in and also use our platform, our buildings, we've invested $5 billion as a company on new arenas. And quick story, so when we were building Staples Center at LA Live, there was opposition from the political sector. So there were a few council people that were fighting us. And I call those people, because we have them in every community, cave people, citizens against virtually everything. And every community has cave people. They came in and fought, and they brought in this professor. And this professor gave this wonderful lecture about how sports facilities, stadiums and arenas, make no economic difference whatsoever. Now remember, we privatized Staples Center. We paid for the entire, Mr. Anschutz paid for that entire project. So afterwards, I got up to speak after the professor and said, oh my God, I can't believe we send our kids to go learn from this idiot, because he's an idiot, because he's wrong. These stadiums, these arenas, these entertainment districts, these moments and experiences we create with Coldplay or with David Beckham, they make a difference in people's lives, but they make a difference in the economy.
Yeah.
And so if you sit here and look at the economic impact that's created by F1 or by the Premier League or Champions League or La Liga or Serie A, if you look at what the World Cup will do for Saudi Arabia and the economy and spur it on here, if you look at music and Coldplay and what they're going to do for Abu Dhabi during those 4 nights, it will be revolutionary, not for the branding, not for the imaging, which will be extraordinary, but for the economic impact. We live in a great industry, which is, we have probably one of the greatest moments to change a community, the economics of a community. So the Institution of Inspiration is taking that platform, and in Saudi Arabia, we want people from Saudi Arabia to be our company, to run our company, to operate our company. We have the good fortune of being able to incorporate them today, send them out to one of our 600 facilities, learn at those facilities about what it takes to create unique experiences in operation, bring that back here, and then when we open our 37 to 40 facilities we hope to manage in this country, this will be a company in Saudi Arabia driven by people from Saudi Arabia because of the Institution of Inspiration and using that platform to change their lives.
That's amazing. Actually, we talked offline about this, how could I apply to this? But anyway, Tim, I want to thank you.
Which night of Coldplay does your wife want to come to?
I think we're not telling her. She's not watching, so I mean, I can just go and just say, hey,
tell her this is what she gets for not watching you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I want to thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There was a poll on the app if you guys want to vote there, about the stadium experience. But overall, I just want to thank you because it's been great, and I look forward to having you back someday, and you can tell us how everything has evolved, hopefully in a few years. And it's going to be great again.
We'll see you at Coldplay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Thank you.